The illustrious Jabba bids you welcome. I'm going to regret this.
I'm Pete Mitchell. He's Peyton Jones. And this is the Church Planter Podcast, brought to you by Church Planter Magazine.
Hey, Church Planter. This is Pete.
And this is Peyton Jones. Like movie phone? That we're going for?
That. Kids these days, they have no idea what movie phone.
Welcome to movie phone. That guy was creepy.
Press 1.
Yes. Press 1 if you know the name of the movie you'd like to see. Press 2 if you know the theater you'd like to watch it in. Press 3.
Like, why would you do that? Why don't you just go to the app?
Right? I mean, movie phone was the deal back then. That's how you found out what was playing.
Because you couldn't trust the newspaper.
Who had a newspaper, Pete? We're in the modern world using our dial rotophones and movie phone.
I'll tell you, no one has a newspaper today. That's for sure.
Yeah, you know, I actually banned certain newspapers off my. I get the news. I do that Apple Plus thing or whatever it is.
Do you really? Well, you don't pay for it, right? You don't.
No, I pay like $30 and I get everything. By the way, this is our sponsor. No, it's not. I actually get $30 for everying, like
for a
Apple
year,
TV,
a month,
Apple
a day?
News, Apple iTunes, like the music app, like where you get unlimited music. You end up, I was paying, and then you get like 2 terabytes of storage. So you get all this crap through Apple now. And I get I get the Apple Fitness. I get everything. So you get all these workout regimes.
Is it $30 a month for that?
30 a month. And you get pretty much everything they offer.
I would never pay that. That's
really
outrageous.
Well, because it's like $15 for the news app. And I love the news app. And then it's
literally just listen to Pandora and it just turn out the commercials. Why would I pay for something? I just don't listen to it.
Right. So you just tune them out?
I just tune them out when it's commercial time.
That's cool.
I don't understand why anyone would pay for that. It's kind of like the radio. You got the radio. Why do I need this Sirius XM business? What do I need satellite for?
So I'm torn right now whether or not to tell you how well church plantology is doing. It's doing well.
I don't even know what that means.
I don't either. They just told me that it's doing really well compared to their other church planting books. So it is done very, very well. But I
hope it's not like a cliff where I have this, great big takeoff and then whoop.
Let's just say it might already be the best-selling book on church planting they've ever published. It's done extremely well.
That could be good.
Yeah.
What do you think makes this one different? Is your platform bigger now?
It's the name and the title, Pete. And the logo.
I was thinking
it's the logo.
It's definitely the logo, 100%.
You know what? I think the title actually though is just you hear it and it kind of clicks. So study of church planting, church plantology.
That and Church Zero is that people understand what church plantology is going to be about. Church planting. I mean, they could have just said church planting.
I think the other thing, Pete, is that people know I'm connected to you. And that has been a huge draw.
I know that's usually the reason why people buy your books. I know that's the reason why the majority of our listeners listen to this podcast.
Of course.
They want to hear me.
Of course. Yeah. So
they listen to Train and they listen for me.
It's doing well though. And I'm actually super encouraged. But on Amazon, it's funny because they have it in these, it's like number 13 in church administration. I'm like, how is it in church administration? It has nothing to do with that. So it's in these really wonky, weird titles, categories on Amazon. So that's kind of weird. But
I'm just saying, I might have brought this up on last week's podcast, but it's still going through my head. The Queen recently lost her husband, and now all of a sudden Bill Gates is getting a divorce. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
You did not bring that up. That is funny. That was a different podcast, but that is pure gold, my friend.
Yeah.
Please share that meme on Facebook so I too may share it. Would be hilarious.
I'm just saying. What are the odds? What are the odds these events happen so closely together?
Wow.
You know, but have you heard that when Melinda Gates really started thinking about divorce was when she found out about Bill Gates' relationship with Jeffrey Epstein?
Are you serious?
Yes.
Wow.
Back in 2013, she was having serious issues.
So I got this theory that Epstein might not be as dead as we think he is.
But that's actually funny. Dan talks about that all the time on the other podcast.
I haven't listened to your guys' podcast, but it's like I actually think I was thinking the other day. I'm like, oh, wait a second. Why do we think this dude's dead? Like, hold on a second.
There's actually really legitimate reasons as to why they don't think he's dead based on the pictures that they took and released. But my line to Dan this week was, there is no way a man like that's ego could let him stay in the shadows. It's kind of like the whole, is Elvis dead? Dude, no way Elvis's ego could have let him remain in the shadows for that many years. It's just not possible.
Did you see Elon Musk on Saturday Night Live?
No, I don't watch Saturday Night Live.
Nor me, but I watched the clip of him doing his opening monologue, and it was a bit different. I told Andrew yesterday.
What do you mean by a bit different? I didn't see it. What was it?
It was just different. It seemed really out of place. He was not. He obviously there's a lot of controversy about him being on there. He is definitely
Isn't
not.
He like got a touch of autism or something? I mean,
that's what he brought up. And, that may be true. I think he said he had Asperger's, which very successful people. Yeah, they can do very well and have Asperger's. And I could see it looking at him, and I could see how, where people can't figure him out and they're like, dude, he's tone deaf. Why does he say this with no concern for people's feelings? That doesn't always mean you have Asperger's, but perhaps
you're a jerk.
Well, that's it, right? I mean,
people think I have Asperger's all the time.
But there's probably a lot of people out there that others think they're jerk, and they truly do have Asperger's. So, it's who knows, right? I mean, who really knows who has what? But it was just really interesting. It was a different monologue, and I couldn't quite put a finger on it. And I don't think it was the Asperger's. But, I keep telling Andrea that we're living in such a weird time that I just said to her, look, there's just something not right. And I'm not a conspiracy theory guy. You and I have talked many, many times about this. But there's just something not right behind the scenes right now. I've never, ever felt like I was living in a movie at any other time in my life. But I am now feeling like I'm living in the beginnings of a society of dystopian making. And I've never felt that before.
This week's episode of the Church Planter Podcast is sponsored by Guns and Ammo. Buy them while you can.
I'm just saying you can't keep, and I'm not even going there. That's your other podcast. I'm not even going there. I'm thinking, gosh, man, it just seems like a lot of head for the hills talk like Jesus gave in the very beginning where he goes, hey, when you see this and you see that, and he does indicate that things are going to play out again and again throughout history. If you understand how the Bible lays out the eschatology or the study of the end times, it lays it out as if it's a cycle that repeats. So the first century had things. The kind of Reformation had things, the World War II had things, and we just seem like we're heading into one of those where Jesus says, when you see these things, it's the beginning of birth pangs. And it just seems to me like we are heading into a time where it's not all Netflix and chill. You know what I'm saying? And I understand that metaphor, but I'm just saying it's not all what we think it is. There's something going on, and we're being pacified.
What do you think about what's going on in Israel right now? Because you got Palestinian family, right? And
yeah, I'm not actually aware of what's going on in Israel.
Oh, really?
So my news app has failed me clearly.
No,
I'm finishing up this building project.
It's basically war. It's basically war right now.
Is it? What between who? What's happening?
Palestinians, Hamas, and Jews.
Really?
I mean, it is like rockets are going off left and right, both sides.
Wow.
I mean, it's like really. I'm looking at it going, oh, so the whole world's about ready to light on fire. Because I mean, all it's going to take is Israel. Like, I don't know if people realize this, but for like the first time in 40 years, we changed our nuclear policy, our nuclear stance because of Russia. And that was because of Israel telling Iran, we're going to nuke you. And Russia's like, oh, really? And then we had to go, oh, really? And I'm like, dude, do people not realize we're like, this is not good right now? And no one's talking about it. Like the news is barely covering it. No,
the news isn't covering anything anymore. It used to be that the news was not covering anything and just bashing Trump. Now it's the news is not covering anything and is ignoring Biden. So that is kind of, I mean, I watched a clip of Biden last night and I just said, hey girls, this is your president. What do you think? Didn't say anything. I'm not anti-Biden. I was really pulling for Biden to do well when he got in. I'm not Democrat or Republican, but holy heck. Like, I just can't believe that. And I don't want the media to pile on ridicule on a guy who's clearly struggling in his old age. But again, it's one of those things like, what's going on here? What's actually going on? Like this is concerning to me. So my 8 and 12-year-old were watching it going, Dad, he doesn't seem okay. My 8 and 12-year-old, they're like, Dad, why can't he talk? And I mean, my kids know nothing. We don't talk politics in front of our kids. And in fact, Andrew and I don't like talking politics at all. So it's kind of a no-go area in my house just because we'll talk, but the only way that we'll talk about politics is just where we find common ground. And I think because Andrew and I are such a mix where we can't get behind either one of the major news channels. It just always seems there's an agenda. And I like to think of myself as a little bit more of a critical thinker. So I don't like to be taken for a ride by either news station, So I don't know if that makes much sense. Yeah. So our talking tends to be, we're aware that we're just ignorant about everything because we're not being told the truth on anything.
Yeah. No.
Gosh, I do sound like a conspiracy theorist, don't I?
You know what? But see, I even hate that term because that's what everyone uses. They throw out at you if you have any kind of different opinion at all. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Even Ed Stetzer was doing that. I'm like, dude, just because people don't want to take the vaccine does not mean they're a conspiracy theorist in the way you're intending it.
I told you about that, right? Where they asked to experiment on my daughter.
Oh,
my daughter has sickle cell anemia. So they said, hey, we want to find out what this vaccine does. We got a letter in the mail. We want to find out what this vaccine does to sickle cell anemia. Someone in your household has this. Would you please keep us, get the vaccine and please keep us posted on the effects? Literally.
Are you?
And we're like, no, my daughter's not a guinea pig for you to figure out because here's the reality. We don't know. You don't know. So why would I give my daughter this vaccine if it triggers something in sickle cell anemia? Why would I do that?
I am begging you to please take a picture of that letter and post it.
I'll see if we can find it. I think we threw it out.
Dude, that would be, everyone goes, see?
Well, and here's the thing. I just think it's personal choice. Everybody make their own decision, and yet it's just something that we seem to have lost sight of in America. Yeah,
I have no problem with people who want to take it or with people who don't want to take it.
Same.
I just got a problem with I have a big problem with them like forcing it. And it's like, but wait, we don't really know much about it. I mean, granted, I would say it's probably pretty safe because I always said I wanted to see the first 100 million people get it. And then
Right.
they're getting it.
Right.
And I mean, yeah, some people have had reactions, some people have died, but that happens with every vaccine. Like, that's not unique to this. But I have other issues with, like, wait a second, you have the vaccine, but you still have to wear a mask. Like, it doesn't actually stop you from getting it. I don't think that's what a vaccine is.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I got
And here's the thing. I guess this is kind of where I feel with all this stuff is, if it all goes down, I have a responsibility to preach the gospel. That is my role. That's my lane. So I tend to think, like, I'll sometimes hear people saying it came from a lab in Wuhan. And, I mean, I've heard great arguments for that. And then, you hear Fauci saying, no, it didn't, and yada, yada. And you never know who to believe, right? I mean, that's
we in a Senate hearing with Rand Paul.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
And he's like, yeah, I'd love for us to find out where it came from. So in other words, we don't know.
Right.
He's finally, we don't know where it came from.
Yeah. And here's the thing is you never know what to believe. And my thought is, look, how much of a difference is it going to make to my life if I do? Why would I spend all of that energy, time, and attention on delving and doing what people call research, quote unquote, which means you
study internet memes.
Yeah, you exactly. Like, to me, it is always a funny thing when someone says research. And I saw a post recently where someone says, are you even capable of doing research? And they laid out like what research actually means in academic circles. And I love it, because research doesn't mean reading someone's rant, or even research means you do the research. You actually have case studies, and you do, like, it's actually quantitative and qualitative data. So don't say you've done, just say I read something and I believe it. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, if I come to believe something that I've read, or I come to believe and someone persuades me, I don't really have a way of validating it. And so the thing that always comes into mind for me is I'm going to prayerfully consider what I respond to as a minister of the gospel. That is what I am. And number two, I'm going to stay in my lane, like Paul said, where he says, no soldier gets involved or entangled, he says, and he uses that word carefully, in civilian affairs. He's telling Timothy, look, you're gonna see a lot of things going down. You're going to be very tempted to comment on, and he goes, just continue to look towards what your commander is commanding you to do. Continue to keep his message, continue to stay at your post. And that's what I'm doing. I might have personal opinions, but and this will actually lead in today's topic, but I still got smack talk. But I want to talk today about the number of Christian leaders leaving the ministry. I don't know if you're aware of this, but a good friend of our podcast, particularly back in the early days, was Brandon Cox. And he announced recently that he's leaving pastoral ministry. And that's not a bad thing for Brandon. Brandon. Yeah, it's not scandal. It's not anything bad that Brandon's doing. I mean, I don't even fully know the reason. I just know that it was announced. And it, one of the things he cited was people being angry during COVID, that every time he turned around, and that's been a common problem. So I want to address that today.
What do you mean people being angry? Angry that he did
angry over masks, angry over meeting this way or not meeting this way, or did you promote the vaccine or not promote? So he resigned at the end of April. It's not even been a month. And I want to talk about that today when we get to it, because I think that will be a fantastic topic. How do you deal with people's expectations? How do you deal with the constant onslaught of varying opinions in a very divided age and in the age of anger and outrage, right? Stetzer had a book on that, leading in the age of outrage, or ministering in the age, something to that effect, or Christianity or the church in the age of outrage, which I did not read. So I can't, I just know it was the title. It's a relevant topic, but how do you as a planter deal with that? How do you, as a shepherd, a spiritual leader, a small group leader, a home study leader, how do you deal with this? Maybe in your home study, you got like 6 people that think 6 different ways and expect you to do 6 different things. How do you deal with those expectations? So that's what I want to come back to. But before we do that, we got some more smack.
Well, what is your smack?
So I want to claim victimhood in my house. I have been persecuted and mistreated, maligned, and poked fun at, which is normal. But this one's particularly hurtful because, as I said before we went live with this,
it's okay. When you get to heaven, you'll have hair again,
and I'll be tall.
No, that'll never happen, even in eternity.
Do you think God would take my handsomeness away, though, to keep me humble?
I'm not sure he gave it to you, but your ego is fully intact.
I like what I see when I look in the mirror, darn it. And that's all that matters.
As long as I got the reflection going over that way and I'm looking at something. Anyway, go on.
You're good enough, you're smart enough, and darn it, people like you. So, anyways, yeah, so I'm a little sucker for the internet meme. I'm not gonna, the little Facebook ad that says, hey, buy this and your life will be. I like Facebook ads. They know me. They know my algorithms. They know my eccentricities. So I have a little tale of woe. This is not what I've been made fun of, but this is just setting up the story. So I'm perusing Facebook like everybody does, and I see, hey, how would you, Peyton Jones, like to have the door knockers of your dreams? They were from Labyrinth. I don't know if you remember Labyrinth, where the door knocker, one had the brass, the big ring in his ears and he couldn't hear anything. The other one had it in his mouth so he couldn't speak. So one couldn't hear and one couldn't speak. It was a bit of a puzzle for the girl to figure out, what she was going to do. But anyways, I get these in the mail. They're obviously from China. Nothing like. I mean, they're round. They're kind of brassy and bronzy, but these are not what I ordered and what I paid for. So I have not been happy. But let me tell you what I did order that did come, and it was as advertised: my ninja pants. Now I've been wearing these ninja pants for.
Some people call them sweatpants.
They're not sweatpants, dude. They're like gis. They're amazing. Look at those. They breathe. They're roomy. I can do high karate kicks if I knew karate. But they're so amazing. So I put them on. And when I first put them on, my wife goes, "No, you're not serious." And I go, "Yeah, these are my ninja pants." And they're Kodori men. They're not called ninja. They market as like Asian streetwear. And let me tell you, the Asian people wearing these look fantastic, right? They're all fit and like, you could tell like they're doing parkour in their spare time, but not Peyton Jones. No, I don't think I could pull them off, but dang it, I'm not letting go. I'm holding on. My daughter, my 8-year-old doesn't, she's like, "Oh, cool pants, Dad." She liked them. So that's cool. She would dress like a unicorn or, an alpaca every day if she could. But my 12-year-old does not approve. In fact, she will not go out of the house with me. She begs me. She makes deals with me. "Please change your ninja pants." And I'm just saying. So I'm ninja pants are here to stay. I have 3 pairs, which to my family's horror, when I told them, they said, "Are you going to change your ninja pants anytime soon?" And I said, "Yeah, I have 2 more." So they were not happy about that, but I have ninja pants and I'm quite proud. And now they rated them. So like these ones, they knew the old ones. The old ones were bad. In fact, I wore one of them on my anniversary and it has like Asian writing down one leg. And they're like, "No, Dad, no." And, but now they're begging for that one to come back. They do not like the gray ones. So I'm just saying it's been hurtful.
I would really like you to take a picture and post it into the Facebook group.
I'd be proud to do so, Pete. I love my ninja pants. I'm actually, hey, it's killed the sweat shorts completely for me. Those are done. I mean, sweat shorts were like the sign of a man who had given up. He was no longer trying to be cool. Didn't matter if there was Nike on them.
Night, right before bed.
Dude, you switched to these, Pete. Remember when you were on the underwear kick?
I do.
Back in the early days? Yeah. Yeah, that was entirely TMI. But I didn't need to know that, and I don't think our listeners did either. But the Ninja Pants, I'm just saying, I will convert you to Ninja Pants. You will never go back.
I'll take your word for it.
There's something. I don't know what they are, but there's something.
That's the biggest cup of coffee I've ever seen.
It's actually tea, but yes, that is my bucket. That is my half potter right there. I drink that thing. And, it's funny. I'm a connoisseur of mugs. There is something about the mug that takes all 4 fingers. That's a big deal to me. So I try mugs on like people try on pants, but with Ninja Pants, you're good. Elastic waist, really wide legs. They one size fits all. But for this, man, I'm telling you, like, this is the way to go. You got to have that 4th finger. The pinky needs to be inside. You can't be doing none of this. You can't be doing none of that, right? You gotta have them together like a fist when you're drinking coffee. You gotta feel like you're grabbing onto manhood.
I haven't had a coffee in at least a month. Just hasn't happened.
Do we need an intervention? Like,
I don't think so.
What's happened?
I don't really want
coffee.
to drink it. I don't really want
because you don't like it black. You like it with sugary sugar.
I haven't had sugar in years, so I don't.
Yeah. So you're drinking it with milk?
Almond milk.
Okay.
Without sugar. Almond milk without sugar. No sugar. I'm a non-sugar guy.
I drink my coffee black, and I love it. And I love it black. I don't know why, but I just do. And I used to be a sweet drinker, a milk and a cream and a sugar and a this and a that and a sweetener and what's that one that's the vanilla one that Coffee Mate. I used to love that stuff. And now I can't drink it. But I do still love my black cup of coffee. But, I've actually wondered. I've seen this guy, he sells this stuff and it's called mud. And it's made from like mushrooms and all kinds of natural things. He traveled to India and he got all these ingredients. And I'm contemplating.
At least that's the story that they tell you. Really, they're like something from Costco and just rewrapping it. And
they're pressing cow patties somewhere in a warehouse in like Michigan and shipping it out as mud.
What I think is funny is people don't understand that those backstories that they're always told are made up by guys like me who sit around like I'm doing it for a company right now.
I love it.
We're coming up with the backstory and it's just like this incredible backstory. And it's got elements of truth to it, but it's a story.
All marketers are liars. Wasn't that the book you told me to get years ago?
Did I tell you to get that one?
Yes.
There's a great book called Trust Me, I'm Lying by
that's a
Ryan Holiday I think it was the guy who wrote it. That was a great book. Well,
and this is the thing, is it serves me right. I knew when I was buying these freaking Labyrinth door knockers to go on my new office that this was a mistake. I just, something inherently said, don't do it. And it was kind of like in Lord of the Rings where he gets the ring of power at the very beginning. And he goes, are you going to destroy it? And he goes, no. In slow motion. That was me. It was like, I got to have these. I don't care if I'm going to get ripped off. I must have it. And so I did get ripped off. So I gotta go fight China now.
You know what's horrible, and this has nothing to do with anything you just talked about, but I was just looking at myself in the video, and it came to me. When I did my last shooting competition just a couple of weeks ago, I had someone videotape me while I was doing it. And looking at that videotape, I can see the white hair in my head.
Nice.
Like, my kids don't even think I have red hair. They're like, it's not red. And I'm like, well, you're right. It's not like it was when I got married. That's for sure. I got a lot of white hair, dude. A lot.
Dude, you're behind me. So, I mean, I can't say like, anything other than, hey, I've been waiting for you. There you are, Peter.
When I grew out my soul patch, and it was a lot bigger than it is now. And so it's so white. I was doing this webinar and like this lady types in, she goes, is there something wrong with my monitor? I see this little white thing on your face and it won't go away. It was the soul patch.
That's funny. Oh, Pete,
Soul patch.
I don't know about you, Pete, but you might spend countless hours preparing for messages, then preach your heart out every week. But then what, Pete? How can people in your church or online, through your online ordination, find those messages again? Not just last week's message, but what about last month's or last year's? If people are going to your website, Pete, to listen to your previous messages or podcasts, they're probably having to scroll through endless pages to find that message or podcast, or being instructed to go to YouTube or Facebook or where podcasts are found to listen to it, which is frustrating, Pete, not to mention distracting. There's got to be a better way. Well, Pete, there is. Sermon Boss is an audio, video, live streaming platform which comes with a podcast that you can easily integrate into your church's website and church apps, so you'll no longer need to send your people anywhere else to find your teachings. So let me simplify this. When people are coming to your website and they want to listen to you, it sends them off. This Sermon Boss keeps people on your web page the whole time. So that's kind of a big deal, right, Pete?
Yes.
Okay, sermonboss.com today and schedule a free online demo to see how easy it is to make your teaching more accessible and keep people on your page. That's it. That's all I got.
Like it.
Yeah.
Great, Scott. It's time for this week's topic.
Let's get down to the nitty gritty.
Nice. What was today's topic? Quitting? Is it another one about quitting?
So there's different reports coming in. There's anywhere that one report says that 29% of pastors are saying that they're going to quit ministry after the lockdown. Then anywhere from 50 to 60% by another survey or study said. So nobody really knows, but it appears to be somewhere within 30 to 60% of pastors are saying, I'm done. I quit. And I get it because, people suck. Like if anywhere you're going to learn that people suck, you're going to learn that in ministry.
Yeah.
I mean, ministry is like being a cop, man. You see everybody's junk. And then because you're a soft target as a minister, people come to you and say things. I remember being in a church. I was at Louis Jones's church, and I was in a meeting, and somebody was so brutal during this annual general meeting, which if you've ever been in a denomination, that's like a big deal. You have it out, and then they talk the pastor's freaking finances in front of everybody. And I remember somebody stood up, like multiple people were just being cruel to this guy. And this was my first one. I was American. I was 25. I was hot off the boat. And I stood up in the meeting and I said, hey, I just want to say, this is the first time I've ever been to one of these. And this is terrible. You guys are talking to this guy like he's not even a man. The stuff you're saying, because he's a pastor, I'm just telling you right now, if you said this out on the street to any other man walking around, they punch you in the head for this. And I think you guys need to understand his wife's, because at one point during the meeting, his wife started crying and got up and left the room because of something they said. And I just said, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I said, look, some of you guys deserve a punch in the head for the stuff you've said. You've shown no restraint to this man, and you've treated him like a soft target because he's a pastor. And I go, frankly, I'm disgusted. It says more about you guys as men than it does about him. And I sat down, and there was like this silence on the room, but I was mad. I mean, really mad. And so what happens a lot is people don't feel that they can defend themselves or even say things like in defense of themselves during this time. They just think, I got to take all this crap, I remember when I was bivocational in planting, when people would come up to me and say, hey, you should have done this. And I'd just say, I don't work for you. And they'd be like, what? You're my pastor. And yeah, but I don't work for you. I make a paycheck. I don't work for you. I'm here for God. And I think you misunderstood and thought you were my boss, or, I'm the Lord's servant. I'm not your servant. So I will serve you, but in serving him. So I may have let you down on your expectations of me. But if you want to start expectations, we could get into my expectations of you and what you ought to be doing. But I don't think either one of us are here for that. So, and the person just kind of looked at me shocked, like they'd never heard this before. And I just laughed and said, it's okay. Look, I get you probably never had a pastor talk to you like this. But in all honesty, I'm working a job like you. I'm making a living like you do, and I don't have time to take care of everyone else's needs. I'm barely surviving as myself. And it actually clicked for them. That story had a happy ending, and they kind of got it, you know? And now I'm not saying that you guys are listening to me going, oh, that's great, Peyton. I could never say that, or I never would say that. We have to understand I had just come through the time where I quit ministry for good. I was very reluctantly leading a church plant at that point, and I just had no time for nonsense. And I would say that if you, and again, it made it a lot easier that I was bivocational. So those of you, 90% of you planners out there, bivocational, you're going to have a lot easier of a time kind of leveling with people and saying, let me explain something to you. And you might want to write that speech out. You might want to just kind of tell them, look, there's a lot of expectations here, but I'm not a man pleaser. And you could use that verse in Corinthians where Paul says, am I still pleasing men? If so, it would not be an apostle of Christ. And what Paul's saying there is, I was sent by him. I serve him. He sent me here with a mission. I'm here to do that mission. There's a lot of incidentals along the way. I'm going to get those wrong. Being right with, honest with your people and saying, I got you and about 6 other people telling me 6 different ways to go, 6 different ways to act. And you know what? I'm just going to have to, and this is the great thing about team leadership. I'll take that to the team. We'll talk about it. We may not agree with you. There's a team of us, and just like you got your opinion, the team has their opinion too. And the golden rule for all of this, and this is going to be hard to hear, especially at the tail end of COVID, is you can't be afraid to lose people.
Yeah, interesting topic for this week. I was talking with a pastor this last week, I think last Friday, can't remember exactly now. And he had seen my webinar on the bivocational training that I do for Bible pastors. And so he wanted to talk about it, see if it was right for him, kind of a thing. And dude, man, his story, he and his wife moved back to the States from the mission field, takes a job as a pastor. I don't remember what state it was, somewhere, East Coast-ish, maybe Ohio, something like that. I don't remember exactly. And he starts putting things in place. Like, there needs to be accountability. There needs to be leaders. And they didn't like that. And so he's living in the parsonage, and then they end up firing him. So here he is back from the mission field. He's got no assets, right? Because he's on the mission field. They don't own a home here. He's living in a parsonage, which now he's kicked out of. And so he's got 3 kids, basically like 12 to 16 in age. And he's like, I feel like I'm starting over from scratch. But that's because he'd been full-time ministry, and he didn't have that bivo buffer that you're talking about of, hey, my income's coming from something else. Whatever it is. It's just.
Did they give him some kind of like severance, or did they give him a run up? Because that is another thing too, is there are legal ramifications. When you fire somebody, there has to be just cause for firing. Like,
I don't know if it was an official firing or we're asking you to leave, or I don't know.
Okay.
I don't, but it's still the point of where he's at in his life. They moved him back to I think it was one of their parents' homes.
Wow.
Because they had to.
That's tough.
And I'm like, and then he's telling me that he was spending 70 to 80 hours a week working on the church. And I'm like, you can't do that. You can't do that for your kids.
Nope. Rejection is protection. And I know that's look, I'm a guy that gets rejected a lot, and that's not a pity party. That's not my ninja pants talking. The apostolics are used to rejection. We're used to getting overlooked. Like, I was talking about this recently with somebody because, like Lonnie Frisbee, who was the guy who basically built Calvary Chapel. People think of Chuck Smith as the guy who built it. It was actually Lonnie Frisbee. He was the apostolic. Lonnie Frisbee, very interesting case study about him. I mentioned this in the book, Church Plantology. Cha-ching! See what I did there? But I mentioned that when you put these different combinations of the APES gifting together, when you have someone with high apostolic function, like Lonnie Frisbee, and then you put him with a teacher, he builds a word-based movement, right? That exploded. Then he left there and he joined Vineyard with John Wimber. Boom, that thing blew up because he was the apostolic. So they're catalysts. So you add them in, it's like a chemical explosion. So that thing blew up into Vineyard and made the Vineyard what it was. Then he moved from there to Florida to join the discipleship, what is now known as the discipleship submission movement, where you would report to your discipler. And it was kind of like a pyramid structure. It was a little bit cultic, really. And it had all kinds of weaknesses and flaws. It was well-intentioned, but the structure was rotten. And he built that thing and that exploded. So here you got this high apostolic catalyst, Lonnie Frisbee, who, yes, there were problems. Yes, when he was in Florida, his wife cheated with the main leader there on him. He went into a tailspin. Homosexuality is part of his past before he'd gotten saved. He had repented of it, but he went back into it for a time. It's very well known. And, but in each movement he was in, he kept getting overlooked and passed by, because nobody knew within the structure of what to do with him. So he kept getting rejected, which is why he would move on each point, because here he was basically, God was using him to bring tons of people there, create this new movement. And then there, in some ways, he threatened those that he was, this is a whole nother topic I'm delving into, but he threatened those that he was serving with. So because of that, he would just quietly move on and go to the next thing. And then that thing would mushroom. And so, I guess the point I was making is apostolics are used to being kind of overlooked. And over the years, I've developed, I heard someone once say rejection is protection, and that has become a lifeline to me. And I found it to be 100% true, that when somebody rejects you, even though it's painful, even though it's hurtful, I mean, that church saved that guy. By 70, 80 hours a week, and they were ungrateful and unwilling to change, he will look back in years and say, man, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because that's how I look back on the church that I was in that hadn't had a pastor for 20 years. And again, it was the same thing. Like it was like the Jerusalem church where, there was the Jews and the Hellenists, and they started dividing over it. For me, it was the Welsh speakers and the English speakers, and there was this huge division brewing, and nobody thought, on the Welsh side that I was doing what needed to be done, the Welsh speaker side. Now, these were Welsh English speakers that were on the other side of it. Those are the people getting saved. And then when the Welsh speakers started getting saved, it caused all kinds of problems, because then the Welsh speakers are like, well, now you're encroaching on our territory. It was really bizarre and weird. We've since worked it out. But, man, I'm telling you, you just cannot live your life pleasing people. And that had a sanctifying effect on me. Because when you get over that needing to please people thing, you become a force to be reckoned with, And I'm not saying being a jerk. Like, we think of that as being like a sinful thing. Paul wasn't out to please people. But when you read in 2 Corinthians, which, by the way, if you're going through it with people that are very difficult to please and it's beating the snot out of you, a solve for that wound, a balm for that is 2 Corinthians, because that's exactly what he's dealing with. He's having he's having to answer their accusations and criticisms of him and his ministry. Now, get this, Paul's motive in that book is that he feels, and he keeps, I don't know if you've read 2 Corinthians and notice where he keeps going, I'm stupid to talk like this. I'm crazy and he starts boasting, and then at other times he's defending himself, and he's like, well, do I even need to defend myself? But I will, this foolishness he goes on. And Paul keeps saying those things because all the way what's really at stake for Paul is the gospel itself. Because in the middle of all this criticism was also they were turning to false teachers. So Paul's motive is, look, I don't have to defend myself, but I do need to defend the gospel. And as the messenger who brought the gospel to you, I'm going to have to jump in and maybe stand toe-to-toe with the super apostles a little bit. So he spends a lot of time defending himself. That's a very healing book when you're getting attacked. You'll relate to things in that letter that will just jump off the page to you. Powerful book. Very grateful God put it in there. But Paul, you'll see a model of a guy who he doesn't come out on the side of the flesh. He's very much walking in the spirit as he's dealing with all this criticism, and I'll help you learn a little bit. Mm. He's also not catering or kowtowing either.
Right. So what do you say to pastors who are thinking about quitting right now for everything in COVID? Do it.
Put your notice in. Get it over with.
Wait till that next stimmy check comes in.
Write a letter, stick it in your top drawer, leave it for the next guy. There's a really funny story about that. It starts with, there's a series of 3 letters and or 3 envelopes, and on the cover it says, "Open this envelope," and it was something like, when you're first tempted to quit, or when it seems like you can't go on. And so the guy opens the envelope, and it's all this great encouragement, and I can stick it out. And so then it says, the second one says, "Open this envelope the next time you want to quit." So he opens it up, and it hits some new things. And hey, by now the church is probably this and that. And this is from the previous pastor. And then the third one, the guy opens the third letter. He's been through a couple more years, and the church hasn't really changed that much. And it says, "Open this one if you want to quit a third time, whatever." And he opens up the third one. He reads it, and it says, "Time to prepare 3 envelopes." So, it's just part of it, it's just part of it. No one, I was actually encouraged because I know the man that Brandon is. He was a good dude. He was one of Rick Warren's boys, and he
was a good dude.
He was a good dude.
Is a good dude.
Well, I'm just saying, when we knew him, he was awesome. I loved Brandon.
I think he's another who unfriended me over the years.
Oh yeah.
Probably. He used to send me Star Wars stuff. And then it was like, "Yeah, Pete, you a little too crazy. Unfriend."
That's funny. Well, it's funny, man, because I tell you how it works with us, right? Like on a Church Planter podcast, I was on with Clint Clifton talking about plantology, cha-ching. And he mentioned on the podcast that our norm is that people find us, we're super helpful and informative to them for a time, and then they kind of move past us. They remember us with fondness, but we have a transient audience. Then we have our diehards. They're just like, "Hey, I'm here for the smack talk. I'm not even planning."
What's scary are the guys who are like, "I've listened to all your episodes twice." And I'm like, dude, I don't know what to say.
Hey, Lloyd Jones said he wouldn't cross the street to hear himself preach. I don't know. I've listened to our podcast a few times just to hear what we sound like. And I've reached out to you and said, "I listened to our show. It was actually pretty good. I enjoyed it."
Every once in a while you go, "This one was so funny."
Oh gosh. Yeah. There's a couple. I remember I was building a shed once, and it just kept playing, and I kept listening because I had this shed took me 2 days. And I'd blown through my other podcasts. And so I just listened to ours, and it kept coming on. But yeah, I remember a couple where I'm laughing. And here's the thing with me is I don't remember, this is weird, man. Like with plantology, cha-ching, I don't remember writing half of it. That's weird. Right?
Yeah.
So when we come to podcasts, it's like someone else is doing it. And I do not remember anything that I've done. People will quote me online, and I'll be like, "Where's that from?" Because I remember writing that stuff, so it's funny. Yeah. But I know we're heading up to the hard stop here. So my advice to you guys is lean into Jesus, lean into prayer, and don't act like leaving a church is the end of the world. There is a time to leave, but there's a time to stay too. And you just need to, I can't answer that for you, but what I can say, everything I said at the beginning, don't live by people's opinions. Don't feel you have to please anyone else ever. You need to listen to everybody, and it should be a team leadership. If you're shouldering things by yourself as a leader, that's 99% of the problem right there. If you had a team that you go back to, that's what I learned in team leadership. I just learned to tell everybody, hey, thanks for sharing that with me. I'll take that back to the team. We'll talk about it and pray about it.
While you're doing all this team leadership, how do you deal with all your IRS compliance and bookkeeping and payroll and W-2s and all that stuff?
Well, Pete, that's why I use Simplify Church. Notice there's a bunch of I's in that. They put the I in team. So, simplifychurch.com.
/TEIM. What the heck? Why are they still a sponsor? Why?
Definitely one of the funniest, but also one of the stupidest ads I've ever done. That was good, and I knew what I was saying. So, but yeah, they put the I in team. SimplifyChurch.com, Pete. They handle all my IRS compliancy, my bookkeeping needs, and gosh, man, they got personal assistants, they got robots, they got all kinds of cool things for you.
They got the T800. So, that's good.
Yeah, man. Hey, real quick shout out. By now, when this goes live, Daniel Yang would have had his open heart surgery, but please pray for him. Pray for his recovery. So he's got a quadruple bypass coming up. And I host with him on Exponential. He's a good dude. So I told him I can't wait to see the T2000 Daniel Yang. So keep him in prayer. So you reminded me of that. So, all right. Well, this has been Peyton Jones and Pete Mitchell reminding you, if you want to reach ones nobody's reaching, be sure to go where nobody's going and do what nobody's doing. See you next time.
Thanks for joining us for another weekly episode of the Church Planter Podcast with Pete Mitchell and Peyton Jones. We'd love to hear your comments on this episode of the Church Planter Podcast. Visit us online and let us know what you thought at churchplanterpodcast.com. If you subscribe to us via iTunes and have enjoyed the podcast, leave us a positive review. The more positive reviews we receive in iTunes, the more iTunes will promote us to other church planners who would benefit from this show. This podcast is brought to you by the Church Planter Magazine, which is available in the iTunes newsstand or online via churchplantermagazine.com.